Welcome back to Luxury Cruising. I'm your host, Krystal Sodaitis, and I've got a real treat for everybody today. Genna is here, and she is going to tell us about the most amazing suite in the MSC Yacht Club on what people know is one of my favorite itineraries, Northern Europe. Genna, please tell the audience anything you would like them to know about you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Genna. I've cruised many times, fortunately. And this trip, we were able and fortunate enough to go on the MSC Euribia on a two-story duplex suite in the Yacht Club, which was amazing. And it was our first time in that type of room. So I'd love to tell you about that. And then we'll talk about anything else that you want to discuss.
Awesome. So take us back to the decision-making process. What made you decide on this ship, this room, this itinerary?
Great question. So I am one of those what I call like a do it yourself, plan my own vacation, especially when it comes to cruising. I've cruised many times. And so I like to look for cruises constantly. One of the things I do, one of the things I tell people is so that you don't get overwhelmed because it's really overwhelming, all of the cruises, is to just pick your date, pick the weekend or the week you're going to go away, find that time. And then when you start searching, really narrow down, only look at those dates. Because if you look at everything and beyond your dates, you'll just be confused and those won't even be available to you anyway. So find your dates and then go on one of those broad sites. I'm not linked to any of them, so I'm not beholden to any of them, but go to one of those broad sites that's going to search all the cruises and put in your month and then start again narrowing down on those dates. And you may start searching regions. I want to look up Alaska. I want to look up Europe. I want to look at regions of Europe. Obviously, the Caribbean's a big one. And then you've got Western, Eastern, and Southern Caribbean. So start looking at different regions and maybe you have a region in mind. You want to do, like I just went to Europe, you want to go to a region in Europe. So you start narrowing that down within your date. And then what I like to do is, again, start looking up all the cruise lines at once. And I narrow it in further and further until I find what I think I might want. And the more you cruise, the more, of course, you're going to be familiar with that cruise line or their ships. But you may not be familiar with all of them because they're constantly making new ships. So you may not know. So, a couple things I like to do is once I narrow it down to what I think might be my cruise, a key factor, especially if you're looking for some of these premium rooms, is you wanna put your data in and see if those rooms are even available. Because if you get really excited about a cruise and that room's not available, then move on, okay? You're gonna look for a different ship in the time frame that you're looking for. So that's the process I start with. I go, "Where do I wanna go and when do I wanna go?" And then I narrow it in from there, and then I start looking for those rooms that I'm really excited about. Maybe it's a room type I haven't tried before. Maybe it's a ship type I haven't tried before. So in this case, I was able to narrow that down and find the MSC Euribia had a duplex, a two-level yacht club suite. One of the benefits to that, it's one of the few rooms. MSC, I find, does not prioritize your room size. So their rooms tend to be, compared to some other lines, a little bit smaller. And in this case, I had four people in the room. So it was nice to have more space. But it also is one of the few rooms in MSC that has two bathrooms. It had a full bathroom upstairs and downstairs, which was really nice, especially again when you have more people in your room. We were able to sleep two people downstairs, plenty of room for your things, a bathroom, and then another bed upstairs with a full bathroom. And then you had those two-story views with those big windows looking in the front of the ship, which was really wonderful. And one of the nicest features of the ship, which again is very unusual, is you had a jacuzzi on your balcony, which was really great. You don't get that a lot, and not all the cruise lines do that. So even though there were jacuzzis for Yacht Club, like there was one jacuzzi on the Yacht Club deck, there are jacuzzis on the ship. This one you could just sit in yourself, and it was really, really wonderful.
That sounds great. Yeah, I want to get into the details of the room
Mhm.
in just one second. But before I do, just diving in a little bit deeper about the process. And I know there's one particular of these sort of larger websites that they just have all of the inventory across all ships, and you can narrow it down pretty tightly to the specific dates that you want to travel, the region you want to travel, cruise lines to consider, cruise lines not to consider. Like when I'm using it, and I'm in there too all the time, just playing around to see what's
Mhm.
available. And,
Mhm.
I usually traveling with my kids, so I don't want to see Virgin. I don't want to
Right.
see Viking. Like that's not going to help me. You can
Correct.
even sort by like cheapest available, suites available, when there's a suite available. So I love those kinds of sites. Now, after you go on that site, do you book it through that site or do you then go to the MSC site and book?
Great question. So a whole combination, and I've booked through many places. So again, my loyalty is not to the one cruise line or the one booking site. I like to find what the best thing is for that trip. So a couple more things when I'm narrowing it down. So I went over what I did for this trip, but when I'm narrowing it down and I'm not really familiar with that room category, I'll keep that site open that I'm looking at all the cruises. And then I open a couple more. There's the one that's really going to give you details on these ships. The cruise lines, it's getting harder and harder to find when the ship was built, when it was refurbished. So there are those sites that really dive into that cruise line. They really dive into that ship in particular. So you can search for that. Get all the details on the ship. Is it good for families? What are the pros? What are the cons? What are people's reviews? How many people are sailing on that ship when it's full? So I'll do that, especially when I'm not familiar. And then the other really good thing I love to do is I love to go to a site like a YouTube. Someone has videoed your room or a similar room, I promise you. And you're going to go to that site, you're going to type in the name of your ship, and you can type in suite area, full tour of ship on MSC Yacht Club area, and then you can search for the type of room you're looking for. And someone will literally walk you through the room. And so you can see, is this going to work for me? Am I going to like this? Is this big enough? Does it have what I want? Versus the teeny tiny picture that they tend to give you on the cruise sites. So after I've done that and I think, okay, this is really it, to book it, what I like to do is I'll look at those larger sites because they're all travel agents, obviously, and there's pros and cons. So the travel agent, if you have changes, you're going to have to call back to that site and always go through that travel agent. That's not necessarily a bad thing. They've helped me very much with trips. And then if you book it through the cruise line, you're going to call the cruise line and they'll talk to you about changes. But the cruise line is usually going to give you some levels of discounts. And then those separate sites, whether it's your Costco, your American Express, your cruising sites, they like to give you the discount the cruise line gives you plus something extra. Maybe they're going to cover the gratuities. Maybe they're going to give you a shipboard credit. Maybe Costco will give you a Costco card. So when it comes to MSC, that's an exception. I find that these sites don't give you a lot of extra bonuses. MSC tends to have a pretty good value already. So if they're not going to give me extras, often I will book direct through the cruise line because, again, I don't need that third party. I can go direct. But if they're going to give me a lot of extras and give me value, then it may be worth using those travel agent third party sites.
Yeah, those are really, really good tips. So tell me about the MSC Euriba. What is the age of the ship, the layout? What makes it unique?
So I believe it's part of the, if I say it right, the Meraviglia class. So it's not their newest of ships. You can usually tell, especially when you've cruised a lot, when ships are refurbished or redone. So they have redone it in their style of not their newest ship. Their newest line is the World's line, the World America, World Asia. They're coming out with that line. But they've done it in the style more like the Seashore, the Sea View, if you're familiar with those MSC ships, where what I really like is the whole yacht club experience. So when you're going for that suite level cruise and you want that great service, which I find MSC does a really excellent job with, it's all in the front of the ship. It's a ship within a ship kind of experience. So what you'll have is you'll have a floor with a lounge. You'll have a floor above that with your restaurant just for Yacht Club. And what you can't see from there is you'll have a floor above that with a pool, a jacuzzi, an outside deck, and more food upstairs, more like outdoor buffet style. And they'll even make you things that you don't even see up there, all for the yacht club. So they have redone this ship in the style of those seashore sea view. Whereas if you go on one of their older ships, like the Divina, which I've been on as well, and I loved the Divina, but it didn't have that layup. And you can tell they retrofitted the Yacht Club restaurant so it's at the back of the ship. So it's not quite as the same experience where everything is together in the front, which I find really nice.
This may be like a super cruise nerd level of
Mhm.
detail, but it sounds also like the rooms are physically vertically separated from the common areas. So you don't have to worry that you're going to be right below the pool deck and people are going to be like, or below the restaurant, and you're going to be hearing like noise and footsteps and pounding at all hours.
So I can tell you, I mean, I have read some reviews on some of the cruises you mentioned, like a Virgin type ship where there might be bigger, louder parties. And so you might be bothered by noise. I have found on some of these, most of the ships I've been on, that not only has not been a bother, but I more hear sort of the lulling of the engine. And it just puts me right to sleep, which is great. So, no, I have not been bothered by noise. I can tell you on the Euribia, and again, the retrofitting portion. So, the duplex suite I was in, I think there were maybe 6 or so of them on the ship, maybe 8. They are not in the yacht club proper. So, they are also in the front of the ship because you get those front-facing views, but what you do when you come out of your room is you'll walk down the hall just a short way, you'll take the elevator, and you'll get to the yacht club area, whereas in their newer ships, the world ships, I noticed those have all been placed inside the yacht club proper area. So yeah, you're even more enclosed and always in that area.
Fabulous. Okay, so now do tell us about the room, the decor. You told us in general the sort of like layout, but
Mhm.
what was, like I said, like what was the decor like? Were there any specific amenities that came with the room?
Okay. So I would say on many of the MSC ships, if you've been on them, you'll see the Swarovski crystals inside the staircases, and they had all of that as well. Inside the room, it was more of a gray, off white kind of color scheme and artwork on the walls. I would say the whole ship, other than the crystals, I would say was decorated, but not overly decorated. We're not talking like French Renaissance type of ornateness, maybe a little pared down from there. But I found it, clean and very, very nice. One of the things I like about the MSC suite experience, and also I've cruised actually on a lot of lines. So there are many I've taken, which is makes it nice to compare. But Royal Caribbean, for example, with your family is also a fantastic line, but you may have realized that if you've been on them a lot, that Royal used to have a butler with your suite. And I believe it was around COVID that disappeared. So they don't have that anymore. Well, MSC still does that. So you not only have your room steward and your a yacht club concierge desk, so that you don't have to go down to the main desk, but you also have a personal butler for your room, which it just takes it over the top. Instead of going to the main desk or even the concierge desk, which is so easy, you have your butler who, if you want them to meet you each night and walk you to dinner, they'll do that. If you want anything booked, they'll do that and they'll get back to you. They really spoil you, which I find just, when you're wanting to get away, you're spending a lot of money on these trips. It's really nice. It's really wonderful.
Yeah. And on Royal, so on their highest suite class, which is Star class, they still have
Yes.
the genies,
Yes.
which it sounds like
And you get the
crosses over
wristbands as
a
well.
lot.
Yes.
Yes, but yeah, they don't have any kind of butler, when maybe at one point they did when you were in Star Class, they had butlers and
I was
then
never in star class. So I usually am in sky class on Royal, and I haven't wanted to splurge for the star class as of yet. And I don't know that I will anytime soon. Sometimes I bid up for the room, but usually they're full anyway. So, but yes, I have noticed that they have the wristbands on Royal Star Class. And so MSC gives you those as well in the Yacht Club. But yeah, they took the butler service away and they do have the genie on Royal, but that's really just in their very highest end suites. In the Sky class on Royal, you're still getting, if you have a ship that has the restaurant, you're still getting breakfast, lunch, dinner in the restaurant, but you're not getting the band, you're not getting the butler.
I mean, I think you're also not getting a drink package,
Correct.
Wi-Fi.
Correct.
Is that included?
Yep. So on Royal, I'm really selective about my ships. Okay. You're right. It is much harder to get a drink package on Royal included. And until you get to the diamond level on Royal and they start giving you drinks every day, which is also wonderful, by the way. You don't need a drink package unless you're going to drink more than 4 drinks every single day. If you're going to drink a lot more than that, they consider the package still. But once you get to diamond, but it takes time to get to diamond. So if you're going to buy a suite and you're not at the diamond level yet, it's going to be expensive to get that drink package on Royal. And on MSC, the Yacht Club rooms all come with the drink package, all the Yacht Club rooms. So you're going to get that. You're going to get the butler, you're going to get the wristband, you're going to get that restaurant included. Whereas on Royal, again, I'm very selective about my ships. I'm talking about the Oasis class or newer. If you're on the Freedom class or earlier, you're not going to have the restaurant. You're going to go probably to Chops Grill, the steakhouse for breakfast, but you're going to be in the regular dining room for dinner. And that may work if you're with a big family and most of them don't want to do a suite. We've done that as well. And you feel like, well, I'm going to spend all this extra money and want to eat with my family. That may work, but if you're all gonna be in suites, then it's really nice to have that restaurant. It's like having your own specialty restaurant, and it really is wonderful.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I agree with you. It's funny, we have our New Year's Eve cruises on Mariner of the Seas, and we have connecting staterooms. And I have my husband and I in a junior suite. And I rarely anymore will do junior suites with my kids only because they don't need a coastal kitchen. And I'm like, well, that's sort of one of the biggest benefits. And so there's no coastal kitchen on
Right.
Mariner. So I'm like, yep,
Correct.
I'm going to go for my junior suite. They're connecting in a regular balcony and I don't have to worry about losing out on my suite restaurant.
Correct, and I've done the same. We've gone anything from 2 of us, my husband and I cruising together, all the way to 30 some people, and it's hard to get 30 some people on the same page to all spring for the suite level. They might not cruise a lot, and they may not wanna do that. So I agree that you may wanna say, "On this one, I'm going to do," choose a little bit differently because you're gonna wanna be with them versus if you're all in the suite level, you may want to splurge a little more and really take advantage and be on a ship that has those perks.
Yeah, exactly. Well, getting back to
Mhm,
MSC,
mhm,
um, tell us about the food on the Euriba. This is a little bit of an older class of ship
mhm,
than
mhm.
their newest class. So, how was the food in Yacht Club? And did you participate or partake in any specialty restaurants?
So we did get to do a specialty restaurant this time. I will give you an insider tip there. If you do reach their diamond level, you do get a specialty restaurant. So that was very nice and a little bit interesting, I'll call it. So Royal, we all have the same class, but on MSC, at least what they used to do is when you'd book the cruise, you would get points and then you would get points for your spending on the ship. So in this case, I had reached the diamond level, but my husband had not. But fortunately, you get a specialty restaurant and you can take someone with you. So that still worked out anyway. If we were both diamond, for instance, you could either take your kids, you could take another couple with you. So that was really nice. They had hibachi, but I find the hibachi on the cruise, whereas it's very entertaining, it maybe end up a little overcooked, let's say, which can happen with hibachis, especially when they're not really amazing at them. So we went to the sushi instead, and it was such a large meal. There was no way we could even consume all of the food, and it was really wonderful. So that was great. We could have gone to the steakhouse as well, but we found that we can go to those and we wanted more of an experience. And so the sushi was really nice. So we were able to do that. And then I always say that having a suite restaurant is really like having your own specialty restaurant on the ship. So I don't tend to do a ton. Again, if you don't have a suite restaurant, if you're on a smaller, older ship and you've paid a little less for that room, it may be worth it to you to book those specialty restaurants ahead of time and really do that as far ahead as you can. Because one of the downsides with Royal is if you don't book everything by the day you enter the ship, they're gone. The
Right.
reservations are over. So if you are not a pre-planner and you want to do things as you go, you're probably going to get locked out of those. So just be aware of that. But again, if you don't want to be at the main dining room and maybe you paid a little less, go to the specialty restaurants and the food will be elevated. But back to the MSC, the Euribia, I found the food on many actually very good. We were not disappointed. I don't know that I would say I was blown away by the food, but I wasn't disappointed by the food. And then there are things that you may not even realize. You can go up to that restaurant on the pool deck, and if you don't like what's up there, you can ask them for more things. You could say, "Can I get this? Can I get that?" And if they can accommodate you, they absolutely will. So just don't limit yourself to necessarily what's there. Ask questions, and they will get you whatever they can if they can. So that's a nice thing if you've never even thought to do that, to just ask. It can't hurt to ask. And because you have that drink package, they were bringing us bottles of champagne, which was wonderful, but it's all included too in your cruise. So it was hard to even drink as much as they had. I'll tell you another downside of MSC compared to Royal, particularly on the ship. If you want every single specialty drink under the sun, you're away. You want every kind of margarita, every kind of daiquiri. That was not the ship for you. They just don't have them. They don't feature them. They don't have blenders and make every kind of ship. It's more of a menu with drinks that they have. So Royal's going to do a better job for you on that, on types of drinks. And like I said, even if you get a drink package or you're in a suite or you get drinks with a diamond package, they just have more variety. So it just depends what you're looking for. But if you're wanting champagne or Prosecco or very straightforward drinks, they have all of those.
Yeah, that's really good to know. It's just like straightforward. Give me like a regular mixed drink. I don't need
Right.
something fancy like Royal has. Every specialty bar has its own specialty menu with your smoky, whatever old
Right.
fashioned, whatever it
Right.
is, bubble drink.
Yes.
That leads me to my next question, which is standouts around service. You mentioned a little bit about the butler, but
Mhm.
being in the yacht club, did you notice anything else in particular about the service?
So the butler, like I said, was wonderful. And because I tend to be so type A in planning, I would say we could have probably utilized the staff for so much more than we did. But we've cruised many times and we're used to doing things. And sometimes I almost feel bad being spoiled so much. They spoil you so much. It is nice to even just ask them what they do, what they can help you with, because you might be amazed and you wouldn't have even have thought of what they do. On top of that, even our room steward, we've had a whole range of ones that really go over the top and ones that are just do what they need to do. But, it's been maybe my daughter's birthday and I brought some decorations and we came back to the room and the room steward went and took it upon himself to just totally decorate the room, which was really nice. And in this case, I have a son and I have a daughter and they are of teenage years. So getting enough space on the ship, like I was mentioning, is kind of key for us so that we can have those spaces for both of them as well. And because they are a girl and a boy, when they were young, that was pretty easy. They could both be in the sofa bed, right? But as they get older, it's harder. MSC has not the biggest rooms, and many of their ships basically have the duplex suite in the yacht club, and they maybe have one or two of the royal suites, and that's it. So we were lucky to find a larger category that they had. But our room steward in this case, for example, when he realized that after the first night, he actually was able to create and sort of make a divider down the bed for them, which was really nice. So again, going above and beyond, noticing those little things, that was really nice.
That's beautiful. I mean, I don't even have a boy or girl. I have 2 girls, and
Mm.
they can't seem to manage to sleep in their own like, in the same bed together. I feel you and
Yes.
having the 2 bathrooms, it is also really difficult to find a duplex suite that, for some reason, also has 2 full bathrooms. And
Yes.
some of the
Yes.
larger suites, even like
Yes.
the grand suite, the
Mhm.
one-bedroom suite, but there's still only 1 bathroom. And that's something that my husband's like, "I'm not paying all this money to share a bathroom."
Correct. When you have 3 or 4 of you, you just need to think about how your day goes. Big thing on cruising is obviously getting breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And when you come back from those things, often 1, 2, 3, or 4 of you might say, "I'm gonna use the bathroom." Okay, that's just reality. So having that second bathroom, even if it's a half bathroom, goes a long way. If it's a full bathroom, even better. On Royal, I've been able to find those on occasion. We've had 2 bedroom, 2 bathrooms, which have been absolutely amazing. But you're right, their grand suites are often, most of them are just 1 bathroom. It's hard to find a 2. They do have some where they have the large window, but no balcony. And I've been able to find some 1.5 bathrooms. So you have to get creative. You have to look around. You have to look ahead of time. The further ahead is better. Alaska, for example, books up so far in advance and gets so full. So if you're really looking for a certain room type, again, working with someone, if you're not that type A personality and having them help you find it, that can help. And really just giving yourself time ahead of time to find those rooms. Because if you really want a certain room type, it's just can be hard to find, and when you find it, put that deposit down because
Absolutely.
it will disappear.
Absolutely. And I am a big proponent of booking as far ahead as you can because then you get the room and
Yes.
the room type that you want and you're going to get the lowest price.
Correct.
I totally agree. Northern Europe, and without going into, details of every single stop, was there anything in particular about the excursions that either you decided to up level yourself or that because you were in Yacht Club, it was up leveled for you?
So you may notice that I already am a little particular and I tend to do things on my own. So when it comes to excursions, there's no change there. So my view on excursions is the following. If you find one that the cruise line does and you really love it, I'll give you a good example. And it's hard to even find this anymore. But if you're going up to Alaska and they do a fishing trip and someone on your team really wants to do it, book it as soon as you can because not only will it fill up, but it's impossible to get a fishing trip once you get up there. So that's a good one to do. But there are many others where you can do it just as easily on your own for half the price that the cruise line is charging. So you have to weigh all those things. What is the convenience factor to you? What is the luxury factor to you? So what's nice about MSC is they not only do excursions, but they actually have separate yacht club excursions, which yes, will cost a little more money, but will give you a smaller group and a more premium experience. So it's definitely good to again look far ahead as soon as you put that deposit down, start looking at the excursions. See what you're interested in if you've never been there and just see the kind of things you like to do. So there's a whole variety. Yes, you can do it yourself. Yes, you can book through the cruise line. We did a combination on this one where we booked some like the train experience in Flam up in Norway. And yes, I could have gotten off the ship and bought the train tickets, but it just gives you a more seamless and nice experience. They bring someone on the train with you, they give you tips and tell you what's coming up. So it's nice to also have them help you with it, help you book it or book it ahead, but book it through them. Whereas you can also get off the ship and do your own thing. And I've done both and I do both all the time.
Was that train experience a Yacht Club specific experience?
That one was not. And in fact, sometimes I book ahead and sometimes we book so late. That's a great example. I think I booked the day or 2 before while I was already on the ship, and they had such an early start time, so that was all that was left, so we jumped on it and took it, and sometimes with your cruises, yeah, you want to really pre-plan every detail, and other times you wanna see how it goes and see what you feel like doing and add things on as you go, and both are good approaches.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think especially when it comes to Europe, because often you're close to either a city or there's a seaside village that's often, I mean, we've just been surprised so many times by these amazing seaside villages that we port near that you can have some pre-planned excursions with the cruise line, or you plan things yourself, or you just decide to like get off and walk around and see what comes up.
Exactly. Do some research. Again, go back on those YouTube sites. All you have to do is look up that town, that city, say, I'm cruising there. What do I do? And I guarantee you, people will give you their opinions and tell you, which is really nice because sometimes you know what's there before you get there and you're ready to go and do these. We saw on this trip, for example, want to say Garanger, hopefully I'm saying that right, in Norway, there were these tiny two-person vehicles and you can rent them. But I had looked that up ahead of time and we did that. And we saw a bus driving up the exact same street that they had honestly probably paid a lot more for. And we were getting our own personal experience. So both have pluses and minuses and both were great. Now I can tell you the other factor is weather. You may be booking ahead of time a trip. It may be hiking, walking, and you may get there and realize it's going to be rainy that day. Something you don't like, it's going to be really hot that day. We had that on this cruise as well. You may have seen Europe's having a heat wave, and our day in Germany was excessively hot. So I was actually happy we didn't have an excursion. We could do as much or as little as we wanted because it was oppressively hot off of the ship. So you have to think of all those things too. You can pre-plan a lot, but it's hard to necessarily back out of it and then if you don't want to go. So sometimes last minute works as well for those issues.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you recall any of the yacht club specific excursions at all?
I would say not on this one. I can tell you I'm looking ahead for next year when we head to the Mediterranean, and I've already looked ahead at those. And they do have Yacht Club trips as well on that one. And I'm looking at those too because, again, sometimes the excursions can be really large and it's nice to have a smaller group.
Yeah, incredible. I agree totally. Awesome. Anything else about this trip, yacht club, MSC Euriba that we haven't covered that you would want people to know about?
Again, first of all, the ship was wonderful. The service was wonderful. I highly recommend whether it's Yacht Club or the suite level on any of these cruise lines. If you haven't done it yet and you're just saying, let me try it, it's really worth it. And I think you'll just have an amazing experience. And I want to say that's for many of these cruise lines. So they really up their game with that extra level of service. Be a little bit wary just because it says suite does not mean you're getting a different experience. So it really depends on which cruise line you're booking. So you really want to make sure if you're paying that extra money that you're getting the service, at least let's say you expect from that. A suite may just be a larger room. So you want to see what kind of amenities you're getting with that. And again, you can look those things up. You can call and talk with an agent and say, what do I get for this? On Royal, they may have a specialized restaurant, but if you're in C class at that junior suite, you may not get the all day meals in that restaurant. Whereas if you move up to a sky class, go to a grand suite and you'll get all day food in that restaurant. So if you're not familiar with it, just look it up ahead of time. So that way you don't want to be disappointed, certainly. You want to get all the things that you want to get. But I highly recommend this upper level of service, whether it's a lot of cruises that you do or just that once in a lifetime cruise, because it really will make it just that added experience. The food will be better. The service will be better. You won't be waiting in that hour-long line once you're on the ship. You get express lines and questions for things. It really is just a whole different experience.
Yeah, I mean, it could be that a sweet experience if you are somebody who just wants to be on the boat and is happy with deck 3 inside stateroom.
Mhm.
Yeah, one of these suites might be the equivalent of 4 or 5 of those cruises, but it's also a different kind of experience, and maybe it's worth it. Maybe it's not once in a lifetime. Is it worth it for that? Maybe you trade 5 weeks for 1 week, but what an
Mhm.
amazing week that is. Something really memorable.
You may be flying around the world and you have to pay to do that anyway. And so you're really looking for that amazing experience. And believe me, I have done the run of the ship, the inside cabin. I have done that too. And And like you said, you just want to be on the ship, and being on the ship is wonderful. So I don't want to tell you, not to go on the ship and get what you can afford, because you do. You just want to be on the ship. It is wonderful. But once you've done that a few times, I can tell you, once you do move up, it is very hard to go out of that experience. So once you experience that suite level, you're going to want to keep it. But there are ways to find those things. Oh, another good tip is, if you can get off of the school calendar, if you can
Totally.
cruise not on the school calendar, so I'm talking September, October. I have looked for cruises for people. They wanted to go to Alaska at the very end of August, and I told them, "You sure don't," because I knew they weren't bringing kids. I said, "Go less than a week later, couple days after Labor Day, it was half the price."
Right.
So those are really good. Once you get off that school calendar, you really open up a lot of possibilities, and it may be affordable. Whereas in July, that's going to be probably your most expensive month. It's going to be more money.
I agree totally. And I feel like there's also kind of a sweet spot in early June, like that first week of
Mhm,
June, when some kids are already out of school, some
mhm,
aren't, but you can still find really like our kids are already out of school. And so you can still find a pretty decent price. And especially if you're going to Europe, it's not as oppressively hot yet as if you were going like
correct.
mid July or August.
Correct. July, if you think about it, the entire United States, which is most of your cruisers for actually most of the world, maybe not Europe and Asia and all of the cruise lines, but certainly anywhere in the US, it's going to be mostly Americans. That's just the demographic. But if you think about our school system in the United States, every child is off the entire month of July. Some are off in June, some are off in August, but they're all off the entire month of July. So that month is going to be packed. It will probably be prime weather up in Alaska. So the weather can still be variable, but it's probably going to be one of your warmest months, and probably August as well. But I agree. If your kids are off as of Memorial Day and you can do late May, right after Memorial Day, or early June, you may get some rooms available and some lower prices. You'd be amazed. The same suite you can get a few weeks apart can be thousands of dollars different.
Agree. So, stepping back a little bit
Mhm,
from this particular cruise, I want to ask you some questions that I ask everybody.
mhm.
The first question is, how do you define luxury?
Great question. So for me, I would say more than I get on a regular basis. So that may be that someone's cooking for me, cleaning up my room. That may be that every time I step out of the room, I come back and it's done. I didn't even have to remind them that they took care of it. For some people, it might be that laundry service or pressing your clothes. It may be the booking things ahead of time, the treating you or surprising you with things in your room. It might be meeting the captain, which in the suite level, often they'll do a separate meet the captain, which they took away during COVID, but some of them are bringing them back and you're getting to meet the captain again. So that may be. So anything that I don't normally get and is an elevation of my everyday is, I feel like when they're spoiling me, that's luxurious to me.
Oh, I love that. And did this experience on MSC Euriba meet that definition of luxury for you?
Absolutely. Yes, it did. And I would say, in comparison for the various cruise lines, like I've mentioned, I love Royal as well, have status with them too. But at the suite level, maybe the star class on Royal, but most people, even book suites, are not going to book the star class. I would say MSC overall, value for money and the experience they give you, they do a better job.
Wow. Good. Awesome. Do you have a dream cruise?
My dream cruise, I would say, would be a longer cruise. So, because my husband and I are still working, we haven't done a very lengthy cruise. I think my husband's dream cruise would be for me to work on the ship and him to be a ship husband. He would love that. But no, I would like a longer cruise where I got to see more and be on the ship for longer. We always do at least a week, 3 or 4 days is super tight. I love getting on the ship, unpacking once, and being on the ship for the week so that you really just get to relax. If you start leaving your phone in your room and just forgetting about your day-to-day things, you're probably doing it right. You're probably being spoiled. But I would say a longer cruise, maybe places I haven't been, maybe places I have. The Mediterranean is a wonderful cruise, especially when it's not oppressively hot. Hawaii and the Pacific Islands are a wonderful cruise. And really, I tell everyone, it depends what you want. Are you looking to hike and do very outdoorsy activities? Are you looking to sit around and relax? There's so many options that are good for you. It just depends what you're looking for and what kind of ship and experience you're looking for because they really vary. Do you want that rock climbing wall? Do you want the bumper cars or do you want a jacuzzi and a drink? So they're
Yes,
very different.
exactly, exactly, and lots of lectures,
Yes,
lots
yes,
of
yes.
enrichment
Mhm.
lectures. And when
Correct.
you say longer, do you mean like a world cruise, 180 days, or more like a transatlantic, transpacific 12, 15, 17?
Transatlantic is a whole, experience in itself because it's more about the cruising and you have fewer stops. But I would just say even 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks would be just pretty amazing for me. That would be wonderful. I don't know that I would wanna give up 6 months or a year or longer, especially certainly still working and all of the things, but just even a couple weeks at sea would be wonderful, and just enjoy the sailing aspect of it. You're on a luxury ship and you're sailing around. Find a seat on a deck and just sit there and watch while you're sailing, and it's really wonderful.
It really is the best to just look at the vast
Mhm,
ocean. It's
mhm.
amazing. So what's coming up? Any cruises planned, luxurious or otherwise?
Of course, there's always cruises in the works or cruises planned. That's never even a question. Everyone at work knows that I tell them I work to travel, so that is for sure. So next March should be on MSC World Asia, so maybe we can talk about that after that. That'll be their newer, larger line. Should be in a similar room with the duplex, again, the 2 bathrooms, but on this one, there's an outdoor staircase in addition to the indoor staircase and an upper deck. So outside of your upper bedroom, there's a deck. So again, the Euribia was a little bit retrofitted and this is their new design. So I'll have updates on that. The World Asia will be the Mediterranean and it will be your traditional, I believe it's west side, your Italy, France, Spain, Sicily type of itinerary. The east side is also lovely going over to Greece, which I've also done. Again, just the really hot summer months are can be oppressive. This will be March, so I'm really looking forward to going when it's less hot. And then next summer back to Alaska with Royal. So I'll be doing MSC and Royal next year. And because I'm going with other family members and they're not going in a suite, again, we talked about that earlier, finding that balance. So that one doesn't have a suite restaurant, but that's okay with me that time because I want to eat with my whole family. So finding those balances and those royal suite prices could be quite high. So again, always doing a balancing act. Get what you want, get on a ship that you want, get what you can afford, and get the highest level of luxury that you can get because it's so worth it.
I agree. Well, yes, I would definitely love to have you back to hear about your experience in World Asia. Thank you for taking the time to tell us about MSC Euriba. And to listeners, thank you for being here as always. And until next time, I wish you safe and luxurious cruising.